My name is Doug Copeland. I'm president and publisher of the Business Journal, and I really want to welcome you to this forum today. We're incredibly excited about the panel that has been assembled to talk about the state of Rockingham, and I will simply indicate here that these guys don't have a corner on the state of Rockingham. And when Justin comes up here to moderate this panel, at some point he is going to open it up for a conversation, for your ideas, your discussion, and your questions. And I'll tell you, I know Justin really well. If you don't think of a question to ask this group or to provoke discussion, he's going to randomly call on somebody. So be thinking about what you might want to ask, if you will. We are especially excited to be in this particular place. Rockingham Community College is truly a jewel. It's an incredible asset for this community, for the region. Our reporters will tell you the work that Dr. Helmick and his colleagues do give us a great opportunity to do what we used to call ink. I don't know what you call it anymore, but we get a great deal of news. And it is really at the heart of the resurgence in manufacturing and jobs in the triad. I'm not allowed to talk about the beer program. I can talk about the brewing program. So we have to be politically correct. But just everything that's being done. And as you look at the companies that are expanding and relocating, in some cases moving back from China and overseas, Rockingham County is a prime location for that. So Dr. Helmick, we appreciate your being co-sponsor. We'll get to that in a second. But thank you for everything you do for this region. This program simply would not be possible if it wasn't for our sponsors. And I'm going to list them here, and I hope you'll join me in thanking them. And at the end of the program, they all have a little red ribbon from their name tags. If you'll do me the favor of just thanking them for seeing the value in doing this. You're going to hear from some of them in a second. But join me in thanking our two presenting sponsors, the UNCG's Bryan School of Business and Economics and Workforce Carolina. And our co-sponsors, the Reidsville Area Foundation, Rockingham Community College, and the Rockingham County Economic Development Program. I want you to do a couple of things. This is where every MC always tells you to turn off your cell phone, turn off your pacemaker, turn off your smartphone, whatever those things are. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I do want you to silence it, if you will. But I really want you, if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Twitter, post some things these folks are saying. Talk about the state of Rockingham. Give everybody out there that's following you an opportunity to understand what we're doing today. And if you use the symbol, and if I get this wrong, somebody younger than I am, tell me if I'm right. For those of you who know what a hashtag is, the hashtag is #StateOfRock, and if you'll put that in your message, that would be great. Thank you. I also want you to pull out two business cards. And at the end of the program, I'm going to share with you how I'll ask you to use those. And the last thing before I bring one of our sponsors up for some remarks is you also have a trial card that looks something like this in your chair. If you'll just fill it out, if you're not seeing the Business Journal currently, we'd like to see if you'll fill it out, and you can just leave it in your chair, and we'll pick it up afterwards. So let me ask Mike Brannock, who is the CFO for Workforce Carolina, to come up for some remarks. Mike?
Well, thank you, Doug. Doug's a hard act to follow, but I'll do my best. The Business Journal always does such a great job of putting on wonderful events, and we're certainly happy to be a part of the state of Rockingham. We also enjoy the email blast and the journal itself, so it keeps us informed and on our game. In terms of Workforce Carolina, we're a full-service employment firm. We've been in business for 27 years. We were started by Teresa Lewis, our owner, still president and CEO today. We are a certified woman-owned business, so there is no false advertising there. She's still involved in the business, and we are members of the woman-owned business enterprise. I want to take one moment, and I hope I don't embarrass them, but back in January, we were looking at Rockingham County and traveling through the county. We stopped in Reidsville at the chamber office, unannounced, and Marc and I believe it was Diane were in there having a meeting. They both came out. They welcomed us. We chatted with them a little bit about our plans and our intentions, and we now have our permanent location in Reidsville, thanks to Marc. So I appreciate y'all being so welcoming and embracive. We also have a temporary site in Madison, serving all of Rockingham County. By a full-service employment firm, what I mean is we do everything from light industrial temp labor, loading and unloading trucks, all the way up to executive placement. I've seen a lot of bankers in the room. We currently have some banking searches in our direct hire group, so feel free to grab me if you're interested in making a change or a move. There's a couple. One story I do want to tell about our company and what makes us different. We are an industry leader in the staffing and employment recruiting business, but there is one story I want to tell that I think separates us from the competition and really kind of says it all. Down in High Point, which is an office we've had for about 18 months, we had an employee applying with one of our clients now. They were not a client at the time, but they were applying for an $11 an hour light industrial position. And the lady says, well, I like what you say, but everybody we start through a staffing agency, and we work with several. Are you signed up with one? And the individual replied that he was signed up with several, but if he had a choice, he wanted to work for Workforce Carolina because he liked the way that we treated him. And I think that says it all. One of our core values is respect. We respect everyone, whether it's the $8 an hour forklift driver or the $80,000 engineer. So I think that pretty much sums it up. If you've got any questions for us, we have a number of our staff here that'll be in the back at the end of the program. Thank you.
And one of the points that Mike makes is that while this is the state of Rockingham, this is a region. We all work in a region. And last night I was reviewing the list of attendees, and I'd like everybody who's not from Rockingham County just to raise your hand to show you how many people come from. Look at that. It makes you understand the importance of regionalism and the importance of Rockingham County to the greater Triad economy. So I think that's something that we're extraordinarily proud of being able to facilitate this. I'd like to bring forward now Justin Catanoso, who's going to introduce our panelists and moderate today's panel. Justin is former executive editor of the Business Journal. He serves now as head of the journalism program at Wake Forest. Justin really, it's amazing how difficult it is to moderate a program, and Justin is a master at it. You've got to be watching the crowd. You've got to be processing the conversation. You've got to be thinking of the next question, and he really does an incredible job. Beyond that, he gets the Triad. He understands this region. So join me in welcoming Justin Catanoso.
Thank you, Doug. That was very nice. This is easy. Come on. This is easy to do. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is the third time we've done this. The Business Journal is come to do the state of Rockingham for the third time. And I was actually here a little over a year ago at the invitation of Michael Helmick to run a panel discussion about your industrial community, the manufacturing base, and see if they could come together and form an alliance. And we had a big discussion then about the challenges of workforce, industry, of hiring, and of economic growth. One of the things that we're going to do this morning is we're going to talk about the state of Rockingham, and that's what this program is about. And we've got some folks here that have lots of experience in this community. I want to introduce them. To my far right is County Commissioner. It's Marc Richardson. In the middle is a site manager with DyStar, and that's Marc Bumgarner. And of course, most of you, or all of you, should know your superintendent here in Rockingham County, Rodney Shotwell. The questions I'm going to be asking them to put it in some context. How are you doing? How are things changed since the last time we were here, or the time before that? There are enormous challenges facing this county. This is an interesting region that we have here, and we've got, depending on when you're counting or how big you want to make it, we've got 11 counties that are part of the Piedmont Triad. And this is a county that has some unique assets and some unique challenges. And we're going to talk about those this morning. The first question that I have for the panel, and I want to start it in a general way, is as a county commissioner, as someone who's involved in the business community and as the leader of public education, I want you to give me the one challenge, not the challenge, but one challenge that you're facing today that you need to grapple with. And I want to start on the far right with Marc Richardson. So from a county commission point of view, one big challenge that you're facing right now.
Well, it's easily economic, Justin. We still have significant challenges. We're improving gradually. We're making about $2 million more per year for the last 3 years as far as tax receipts, but it's not nearly sufficient to do as much as we want to do in terms of services. This junior college here at RCC has had to delay some pretty important maintenance because we haven't been able to support them financially. It's just one of the areas. So economically, we want more people working, and we want an increase appropriately in tax revenue without increasing rate.
Marc.
Okay. Well, I can echo definitely with the economy that the county commissioner is mentioning, but from a manufacturing perspective, one thing that we struggle with, and everyone that I talk with in the county from a manufacturing standpoint, is actually workforce development. Making sure that those people that are out of work, that are they properly trained to be able to fill the roles that we have available in the workforce. And that's actually a struggle that we're facing right now, is trying to make sure that the people that are out there, do they have the right assets to be able to come into the workforce and do what we need done.
Rodney.
I think for education, kids are going to come to school every August regardless, and we're going to teach them regardless. The unfortunate thing is I do think that this recession that we've endured now for about 6 years has had a profound effect, because about 12% of my workforce is no longer with me in order to make sure that we streamline our budgets and things. And what that does is, in education, the vast majority of our budget goes to people, because that's what we work with every day, our children. And there are some programs and there's some opportunities that we would like to really move forward with, but at the same time, we also have to look at the sum of the whole, and where we would like to do some more things with workforce and economic development on our high school end. We can't forget that the children at the lower end in kindergarten through 3rd grade have to get those basic skills in. Implementing those, I think, changing over to a curriculum, the Common Core curriculum, getting people to think about standards. At each of the grade level, kids have to have these standards that they have to have at the end of each grade level. And that's a little bit different than what we've had in the past, where they've had to just, the teacher had to cover this much material and then we move on to the next thing. We want to make sure kids have a really strong foundation in reading and math so they can be successful in some other areas.
12%. What's that 12% represent?
It's about 260 people. And that's anywhere from a teacher assistant up to somebody who's working in the district office.
And this has been necessitated by a lack of funding or
Yes,
reduction in
Yes,
state
sir.
support and local support. Okay, so we're reducing funding for our education. And what are our problems going up the line? Workforce training? Anybody see a connection there? Tax base? Not growing the tax base, not growing businesses. I don't know if that's the case, though, but you can see these are big challenges. We're starting there, but this is our 3rd time back. We were here the first time 3 years ago. Let's come through the same way again. How about a big improvement? What's something that's working better today than was working last year or the year before or the year before that? Marc?
Well, I think in general, we're more business-like in this county, and I'm not trying to speak for Rodney, but Rodney has taken business principles and applied them as he necessarily had to deal with some tough budgetary situations, and I think we're much smarter with that. We have a good collaboration between private individuals with our economic development programs, and I think we're looking and researching better. I believe sincerely that we're doing a better job of seeking out potential new industries and economic opportunities. Read that to mean job opportunities for our citizens.
And if I could just stick with you for a second, Marc, in terms of the county commission, how do you see them moving in the right direction in that area that you're talking about?
Well, I think we all recognize the importance. I'm not trying to speak for all the commissioners, but as a group, we recognize the importance of husbanding our money well. If you can't create new income, we certainly don't want to raise tax rates. And so we need more income coming in that's taxable income. I think we're very much focused as a group on keeping tax rates. You know, our population has a significant number of citizens that are over 60 years old.
Yeah.
An increase in ad valorem taxes for many of these folks is disproportionately hard because they're on fixed incomes. And so we have to be totally sympathetic to the individuals plight that are picking up the tab, basically. And yet at the same time, there's always an increasing need for various goods and services. If I can go maybe
Please.
a little beyond my time, Dr. Shotwell and I spend a good amount of time together, and I think there's more synergy like that going on where we're collaborating on things.
Okay.
Now, the commissioners have not, for example, they have not reduced the amount of money going from county coffers to the school district. And there's been some reduction in number of students. So some folks like to say, well, you're actually increasing. But we want to go beyond that.
Yeah.
And there's a price tag associated with it.
Yeah. Do you know what the population of the county is, Mark?
A little under 93,000 right now.
And roughly, how is that different, say, 5 years ago? Is this a population that's staying steady?
Well, it's kind of unusual. No, but it's only varying about 1,000.
Up or down?
First, we went up to, in about 2005, we had gone up to about 93, a little bit more. And now we're down 1,000. So plus or minus 1,000 at any given census point.
But it's holding pretty steady.
Yes, it is. Certain segments are going down. I mentioned the students,
Yeah.
the young people, and the older segment of our population is going up.
Is increasing, okay. Mark, when you think about the difference in the last time we had a conversation, the last time we were here, or maybe even the time before that, what's working better from your perspective in this business community?
Well,
Excuse me, other Mark.
Other Mark.
from my perspective, one of the big things has been collaboration and getting better communication. Having these kind of forums where it brings awareness up has definitely been important. I think being able to have the different alliances that have been developed over the last couple of years. One that I've been involved with for the last couple of years has been an alliance of the 3 chambers we have in the county. For the Rockingham County Chambers Alliance. Another one, and that's from a business perspective. Another one that's more directed to manufacturing segment is the Rockingham County Manufacturing Alliance. And those alliances and associations have helped to bring awareness, but also collaboration. Not one person or one group has the answer. And being able to meet together and share ideas and then expand upon that has been something that has definitely improved over the last couple of years.
Okay. We're going to come back to, there's a new manufacturing alliance in this community that's been together for a little over a year, and we're going to come back to Mark and dig into that a little bit and see how that's working. Rodney, when you think about last year, the year before, and now, in terms of your school system and what you think is working better, what comes to mind?
Well, you know, one of the things that I'm really proud of is the fact that for one of the poorer counties in the Triad, we have more technology for our children than most school districts do in the 15 counties. And what that does, I believe, is that, you know, students who don't have access to it at home, they're going to have access to it here at school. And we've had some partners. We've had Golden Leaf, the Reedsville Area Foundation, and I've had a very committed board who believed in the vision of what we've been able to do. You know, we have, for our second year, all our high school students have Chromebooks, which is a mobile device that they use. Their classes are in the cloud in a learning management system called Canvas. Parents have access to their grades. You know, somebody asked me, said, what's good about that? I said, parents have access to their grades. They said, what's bad about that? Parents have access to their grades. You know, so it's an accountability piece that goes back and forth between the teachers and the students. And it's not just at the high school level. I mean, we're getting ready to, probably in January, a lot of our middle school students will have a mobile device to use at school. And a lot of our elementary schools, about the same time, will have some mobile devices for grades 3 through 5. And it really involves the kids more in the learning process. It's more collaborative. We're looking at the future of the business community. and getting them ready for the workforce. It's not about them reciting just facts. It's the fact that they can work with other people and do problem solving. And that's really what we're really trying to do. And this has really been the environment where the teacher goes from the solo artist to the director of a symphony.
How, and Rodney, I want to stay with you, but how hard was it? Was it a challenge to move in this direction of this technology when you think about the support you needed from the county, the support you needed from parents? How was it a challenge to move in this direction with technology, putting these mobile devices in these kids' hands?
I think it was at first because people were so afraid that the teachers weren't going to teach anymore.
What's that mean?
It just means that well, it's like that Nick Nolte movie in 1984, Teachers, you know, where the guy came in there, they called him Ditto. Everybody picked up their mimeograph papers. Now, I know there's a lot of y'all out here like me that can remember those days. You know, how it smelled after it came off the machine. You know, and that they don't really do any teaching, that it's just given to them and that they do it and they leave after the bell rings. And that's not the case. Those interactive whiteboards that we have really open up the world for our kids. They take virtual field trips. They talk to people in other areas of the country, sometimes other areas of the world. They're really able to use that portal to bring the world to them. And the teacher, I think it really, for a teacher, I'm thinking back to my time teaching economics, that when I had to tell kids to bring a red pencil, a red pen, a blue pen, and a pencil so that I could show shifts in the supply and demand curve. And now you can see it in 3D up on the screen in live action, and people can see how it changes right off the bat. So I think for our teachers, we've given them a greater tool. And I think that was probably one of the things that we had to overcome. There's still a segment of our population that still believes that it's heresy, that some of our children have technology in their hand. But I think in time, we'll win out and they'll see the benefits of the children having access to information.
How are you training the teachers? I mean, do you have a new crop of teachers that have these mobile devices? Or are you training the folks that you have to be proficient in these things?
Well, that's the other piece that's been very critical. When we've implemented this, we're talking, all the things I'm talking about has taken 7 years. And it's not something that happened overnight. When we did the interactive whiteboards, we gave it to teachers the first 2 years who applied for them.
Can I stop you for a second, Rodney? Does everybody know what an interactive whiteboard is?
Okay.
Just tell us what that
All right.
is, just so we're all on the same page, and then
All right.
pick that up.
Think about a whiteboard with a magic marker. Now think about it like a big computer screen that you can interact on a website, on a 72-inch screen TV that you can touch up there. Teachers come up with activities, like let's say one for an elementary school kids. When they come in every morning, they go up there to the board and they see all the things that are available for lunch. And they go up there and they take a little pen and it uses static electricity touching the board, and they can drag an icon of pizza down by their name. And at the end of the time, when the kids come up there, they use it for weather, those kinds of things. And it's a visual interaction for the kids to be able to see. The other thing is, like for high schools, if I'm teaching drafting and I'm using AutoCAD, I can actually use my AutoCAD program on the whiteboard where the entire class can see it, so that I'm not just talking about it and they're trying to figure out how to do it on their devices at their desk. For some, it's a field trip. It's a virtual field trip. Let's say that in the middle of me teaching U.S. history, and they're saying, how far did the 52nd Regiment in North Carolina get in Gettysburg? We'll stop. We'll do research. We'll go right out there to that website. And then after we find out exactly how far, we'll go to Google Maps and zoom into that GPS point and show them, this is what it would look like if you went to Gettysburg today. This is what it would look like right here.
So let's come back to that question about training. How long did it take to get your faculty to be able to make use of this technology?
As they got the technology, we trained them. And like I said, the first 2 years we gave it to teachers that I knew that would use it, because that would create peer pressure, just like we all use at our jobs. That if somebody's doing something innovative, the kids are going to say, well, how come you don't have an interactive whiteboard in your classroom, Miss Smith? Yeah, and I don't know what the answers were, but eventually after 3 years we made everybody do it. But the thing about it is that we offered training. And it was during the summer. We gave it, it was specific to their grade level or their subject matter. The same thing with the mobile devices. Before we rolled them out to everybody, we had 10 pilot classrooms in each of the 4 high schools. And they worked through all the humps and bumps, anything that would go wrong, because I knew that they could adjust. That way the next year, They would also be supportive to the teachers who are going to say, look, it's not working today, I'm done. And they say, well, hold on a second, let me help you out. I had that same problem last spring. We also have instructional technology support at each of the high schools. So they're teaching teachers on a daily basis on how to use those devices better to reach those kids. If you don't have the professional development to go with it, you're basically just giving them a tool that may or may not be used. The expectation that we give them is that it will be used, and there's not really an opt-out for that. And we give them all the support that's possible to be able to use that.
Mark Richardson, when you hear the superintendent talking about these things, and have you been in the schools to see some of these things?
Every day.
And so you have an education background. You were a principal of a charter school in this community. We're going to come around to charter schools in a little bit. What's your reaction to this, and what the role of the county is to support the initiatives that Rodney is implementing?
Well, as I used the word synergy before, but I think it is all of our responsibility. And you've already heard that all of us are interested in education for our own interests. We're interested in preparing our workers. We're interested in preparing these young citizens to take control later on. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it has to be looked at appropriately. I've seen these interactions going on with the whiteboards. They're marvelous. But there are some cases where I'd like to see my grandchildren actually playing with a ball or a cube or something like that. So I think there's a place for all of that traditional stuff, and we've got to make sure that we're operating in the same century with the rest of the United States here. We're keen to support it. I think where we're supporting it best is, from the commissioner point of view, is influence on our state legislators to keep the bulk of the money coming. There is a financial price tag.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good education isn't cheap. And the price for not having good education is what we can see. We can see that our children aren't prepared for the jobs that are out there. Because the jobs that are out there today, and this is a discussion that we have in these state of events, whether it's Rockingham County or Randolph County or Davidson County, they are not the jobs that were available 10 or 15 years ago, where the skills were lower, where the bar and the barrier to entry was just a half a step, where you could drop out of high school when you were 15 or 16 years old, get a pretty good job for a pretty long time. Those jobs are gone. They're not coming back. You may have a few of them left, but not enough. Not enough to keep the really talented, smart, and ambitious young people that are growing up in this community or taking advantage of this high-tech education. If there aren't opportunities for them in this county, they're going to go somewhere else. That tax base is going to grow somewhere else. There's a real connection here between the support for primary education and whether you can grow your workforce and grow your tax base and grow your economy. These things cost money. Mark, in the middle. Help me understand whether you're seeing this connection. County commissioners are saying, we want to support this. He's implementing these changes in education. You need folks out there through your manufacturing alliance, through your own workplace. Are you seeing these changes? Are you seeing a better prepared worker coming your way?
Not yet. It's something, though, that I think is on the drawing board to continue working on. You know, one of the things of all the different roles that I have between running a plant and being involved in these different associations and so forth, one of the things I'm first and foremost is a dad. So I've got 3 kids in the education system. They're not in Rockingham County, but they're in Guilford County. It's the same kind of problem down there as well. And one of the things that helps in the connection, not only between from my left and my right, from going from the government and education side, it's the parents. Getting the parents involved in that. The parents are the ones that I need in my workforce, but those are also the ones that they need the training to be able to get their kids up to par as well. So from back to your original question, in terms of from a workforce development standpoint, it's being able to see that connection that is starting to take place, where we can see the kids that are getting the education in our county schools to be able to make that connection from there and enter into the workforce. You know, that's one of the things that having a community college like we have right here is a great asset to be able to bridge that gap.
Tell me about your company, what it does, the services it provides, and the kinds of skills that you need in order to support what's happening there.
Okay. DyStar is the world's largest producer of dye stuffs for the textile industry. We do not produce any dyes here in Reidsville, though. We bring a lot of those dye stuffs from our company locations around the world right here in the Rockingham County, and we distribute to the United States from here. In our plant in Reidsville, 2 manufacturing plants, we produce over 2,000 tons a month of chemicals. Historically, it was for the textile industry, but now it branches out into a lot of end uses, things for the paper industry, leather industry, some cosmetic grade products, a lot of different things just to diversify ourselves. In our manufacturing environment, there's a lot of different expertise that's needed. Obviously, there's a lot of chemistry background that is hard to find, and being able to do research and development and come up with new products for our businesses is one of the areas that we lack. Even down to the people that are out there on the floor making the chemicals, there's a certain amount of know-how that's needed to be able to properly and safely manufacture the chemicals that we make in our facility. There's also the people that work in the warehouse that need to be able to do forklift and that type of thing. But the higher level or more related to the chemical side, a lot of our manufacturing plant now is computer related. And so, being able to have an IT background and that type of thing, it's something that we're starting to see. And so even when I bring someone in to do just the ground floor working in our warehouse, they need to be able to use a computer to be able to print labels. Those are the types of different sets of skills needed.
Okay. Unemployment in this county, I believe, is about 10%. Does that sound about right? Pretty high. Still pretty high. So the U.S. unemployment rate now is coming down closer to 7%. It's just went down to 7.2%. We're not creating enough jobs nationally, but we're still making progress in that regard, and the national unemployment rate is coming down, staying high in Rockingham County. Marc, are there jobs available right now at DyStar? Do you have openings?
I do.
And are you able to fill them?
Some of them I've been able to fill through temporary agencies, but then there are some that are open that I have not been able to find the right person yet.
10% unemployment. Jobs open that he can't fill. Challenges in funding education. There's a connection here, you guys. This is your community. What do you want it to be? How do you want it to improve? How do you want it to grow? We're having this discussion every year. We're making progress. We've still got these challenges. Rodney, when you hear what the county commissioner says and what the business leader says, and you think about how do you connect these kids to this workforce? How do you get them interested and excited in a career and a future at a place like DyStar?
Well, I think one of the things you have to do is you have to make people aware of what's out there, not only in Rockingham County, but in some of the surrounding counties as well. And I know when we had the manufacturing summit last year, that one of the questions that you asked, said, how many of you all have internships with a local school? And nobody raised their hand. And that's one of the things that as we look at our career technical education, we really do want our kids to at least have that experience, maybe in an internship for a semester. Because, having had that experience as a principal with some of our children, I had one that really thought he wanted to be an engineer. But after he did his internship for the semester, he said, I don't really like that. He said, they don't talk to too many people. And at least at the company that he was working at. And he said, I really like talking to people. He said, so that might not be a choice for me. We are offering some different things at our schools. Dr. Helmick and I have talked about some potential programs in the future that we could do together. Like in the healthcare business, with the simulated hospital coming online here. We have a health science academy that we just started at Moorhead. It started with our 9th graders over there. We still have health occupations in the other 3 schools as well as Moorhead. getting those kids exposed to those jobs and what's out there for them, because I really want them to stay here, because if we could keep them here and get them involved in an internship, you get a student worker that has an experience leaving Rockingham County. And if they have a good future ahead and a job that pays a pretty good salary, the likelihood of them staying here is pretty high. And if you help them to go back to school, whether it's at the community college here or one of the local universities, again, it's one of those investments that you're making. You're making an investment in a child who's going to become a young adult, who will also become part of the workforce that we could keep here. Because one of the biggest things that I worry about is when they leave us, is that, you know, when they get finished with their 4-year degree, this is a great place to have a family. But if I'm single, is this really a great place to live and have a job? And that's one of the things I encounter when I try to hire teachers too. You know, it's much easier when I have 2 teachers that are married to each other and they have children. We always have a job opening in one of the areas that they're generally in there. But, you know, as a young professional teacher, we do have a lot of them that live in Greensboro, but they choose to come to Rockingham County, and I think that's because we offer a little bit different environment. Not to be disparaging towards any other school district, they're all great, but I think we offer a little something different here. We're more of a family atmosphere. The teachers know who I am. I don't think there's one that if I walk through the hallways, if they had an issue on their mind, that they wouldn't stop and tell me. And not everybody would feel that comfortable, I think, with their school superintendent in other areas.
Marc Bumgarner, I want to come back to you real quickly, because he talked about these opportunities to come back and what he's trying to expose them to, what Rodney's trying to expose them to and get them excited about. Are those opportunities here in Rockingham County for those kinds of careers from your view of being with the chambers and being with the Manufacturing Alliance?
I think so. Yeah. You know, it's something that is, with the Manufacturing Association, for example, that's one of the topics that will be coming up in a future meeting, is how we can engage and have opportunities on a temporary basis or some kind of internship, so that we can bring some of these people. You know, there's maybe some companies that can't have, for legal reasons or OSHA reasons, have high school students, but maybe people that are enrolled at RCC to be able to do that type of thing. So that's one of the topics that's definitely going to be coming up. So yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of opportunity in this county for that.
I want to stick with Marc, and I want him to talk a little bit about this Manufacturing Alliance, but I also want to give Michael Helmick a heads up, and I'm going to bring him into the discussion in just a minute, in thinking about how Rockingham Community College is responding and changing and evolving, and how it's been changing and evolving over the last couple of years. Tell us about this Manufacturing Alliance. What's your goal? How many folks are involved in it? How many of you are aware of this Manufacturing Alliance that's been in place? So a little less than half. Okay, tell us about it.
Well, yeah, this is really the, I got to give kudos, this is really the brainchild of Dr. Helmick, and bringing this to our county. About a year and a half ago, he invited a lot of the companies in Rockingham County to come to RCC and tour the facility of what RCC is doing, but also to say, you know, this is something that he saw as a need in this county to really have some collaboration and talking between the different manufacturing companies in the area. And in doing so, he said, you know, this is not something that RCC wants to run. This is something that needs to be yours. If it's going to succeed, it's something that you need to step up to the plate and be able to do. And so slowly but surely, we started a meeting, met a few times here at RCC. And I remember it was actually in this room, sitting over there in the corner, Dr. Helmick got up and said, well, someone needs to step up and be president. And unfortunately, I'm one of the ones that...
Everybody stepped back, and he forgot.
Yeah, everyone stepped back. No one else, you know, I don't like silence for too long. And I said, fine, I'll be the president of the association. So I'm currently acting as that. But what we decided to do is start meeting on a quarterly basis. And right now we're having activity of roughly about 25 to 30 people, different companies coming in and meeting. We started meeting again here at RCC, but we started to bring in topics that were important to us and start going to other areas. We start off, and kudos to the county, because we met at the county offices and really got to meet everyone within the county and how all of them are trying to work towards making it easier for manufacturing companies to be able to get permits for building and things of that nature. So we had a meeting at the county offices and talked about that, very well attended for that one. And then we started going to different manufacturing companies. We met one time at Unify in Madison. Most recently, we were up at Tiger Tech up in Stoneville, and in December we'll be meeting at Miller Coors. So it's rotating around the county, and part of it is seeing what that company is having to do. There's already been a lot of connections been made in terms of, oh, I provide that service, oh, I need that service. So there's been a lot of that business-to-business type thing, as well as shared issues that we've been able to discuss. One of the big things that we'll be talking about in December that's really near and dear to everyone's heart, obviously, is healthcare, and how the new healthcare initiative is going to impact us and how we're going to be able to react to that. So that's really the topic in December.
This is a good thing. It's a really good thing this community is doing. These manufacturing, your community, if you look at the jobs that you have here, you're probably about 50% manufacturing related or manufacturing based, or vendors that are feeding the manufacturing industry. And this is the dominant industry up here. And these guys are talking. And I suspect there's some women involved in this group as well. They're getting to know each other's issues, and maybe there's some competition. Maybe you're a little worried that you're going to lose an employee to one of these new friends of yours. But the real thing is the synergy and the collaboration, the idea that you can actually say, look, I need someone to help me with something.
You know, one of the things that we've been really excited about, and I think everyone in this room would be excited about, is the addition of Ruger to Rockingham County. And this was not a success for the western side of the county. This was a success for the entire county. To be able to bring a company like Ruger into this county from a manufacturing standpoint, there's people that are a little bit nervous. Are you going to take the workers that I actually have and be able to do that? I can speak for only myself. If some of my guys, in fact, I know some of my guys have already applied at Ruger. If they can do better, by all means do it. That just means that I need to step up my game to be able to make sure that I keep the good people that I want to keep, and being able to train them properly to be able to better themselves. But no, Ruger was a great success story for this county.
But that's how a community grows too, and that's how you grow a tax base, because he realizes he can't stay the same. His company's got to innovate. His company's got to figure out how to generate more revenue. It's got to figure out how to pay people a little bit better if you're going to keep them. And then when that happens, it all trickles down to help the community. And an enormous responsibility in all this is someone who's not on this panel today, but it's the leader of the community college. And Michael, if you could just give us a sense in the last couple of years of how you've been trying to respond to this challenge in a very difficult time, not only in Rockingham County, but across the state. But here in Rockingham, how you've been able to trying to respond to the economy and helping these folks get where they need to go.
And how long do I have?
You got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Justin. Welcome to Rockingham Community College. Let me make just one little statement. If you see a lot of our faculty and staff around here who are kind of bleary-eyed this morning, we've just completed our on-site visit from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. It was a very successful visit, but we are a little tired. Folks have scrambled around for 2.5, 3 days trying to gather all that information. We're halfway through the process. We can't make any official announcements until June, but let's just say that we're not an institution that's in trouble. We're going to be a successfully reaffirmed institution. But Justin, thanks for the opportunity to talk about this. I've been here a little over 2.5 years, and every president who is the president of a community college has a philosophy, and my philosophy of a community college is to be a catalyst. We're a catalyst for the community. It's why community is the middle part of our name. And I think we're doing great work. We are struggling with some issues. We do have budget issues. Our state budget, we're funded a little differently than the K-12 system is. We receive most of our funding from the state, and that is legislatively mandated every year. Our budget is down about $1.2 million out of a $13 million budget last year. That's our state budget. The county budget, thank you very much, Marc Richardson and county commissioners, has remained steady and has actually gone up a little bit, so they're doing what they can for us. But we're struggling. We made the decision that we would not wholesale cut positions across the board, so we have made some other adjustments as we move forward to make sure that this community college continues to serve the community. But if we want to talk about the Manufacturers Association briefly, the reason that we got that started at this institution is, and I did bring that from another institution where I've worked, the best ideas I've ever had I stole from somebody else, I will assure you of that. And because it was pretty obvious that we had not been having that conversation at this institution about what the manufacturers needed, that we had been having conversations within the institution, and so we've been pushing out for the last 2.5 years, talking to manufacturers, talking to everybody. And I will tell you, one of the most frustrating things that I do at this institution is sit here and talk to manufacturers, and I hear from a bunch of them, I can assure you, and they say we have got to have workers. Ruker coming into town is a great thing for the county, but I have already heard the concerns from a number of manufacturers about they pay better than we do. Where are the workers that are going to backfill that going to come from? And yet we have programs that are underfilled. Now, with Ruger coming in, suddenly our machining program went through the roof. Brewing, distillation, and fermentation, it was kind of a no-brainer. That program was full right from the beginning. And interestingly enough, though, in both of those programs, our welding program is very strong. A lot of the people coming back to those programs already have 4-year degrees, and they're coming to this institution to earn a living with that 4-year degree. So what we're trying to do is have those conversations and develop the programming that we need. But it's very frustrating sitting here as the president of the community college, seeing a lot of high school students who come out of high school, and this is in no way a reflection negatively on the K-12 system, but we see a lot of high school students who come out of the K-12 system don't do anything after high school. They assume, and I think one of the conversations I'd love to have is that feeling sometimes that goes on in this community that, I got my education and did this much, and that's going to be adequate for any of my children to go on. And that is not the case. The good jobs that are out there require something beyond high school. Sometimes a 4-year degree, sometimes a 2-year degree, sometimes a certificate. But to sit here as the president of a college and see our programs underfilled, knowing that there are jobs out there, having manufacturers tell me, where are the workers, where are the workers? A lot of them are in programs like electronics. Everything that goes on in Marc's plant, I will guarantee you, involves electronics in some way. Programmable logic controllers. If you're going to get into a business, that's the thing to go into, because most of his plant runs off of that. But to sit here and know that we've got programs that are partially empty and that we could put students in there. Part of it's a budgetary issue. We made the decision about 2 years ago that we were going to be proactive. Somebody mentioned the simulated hospital. We start construction on that in November, and I have to thank the Reidsville Area Foundation for helping us with that, because if it were not for their $1.27 million gift that we got recently, we would not be starting construction at the level that we are. But we know what's going to happen with healthcare. We know that healthcare, it goes back and forth, but the jobs are going to be there. And we're going to train the next branch of workers, and we're going to continue to work with our hospitals to provide the internship type training on site.
Michael, thank you. It's a lot. It's a big job. And that's, think about that. Think about what Marc Bumgarner is saying about opportunities going unfilled. Think about what Michael Helmick is saying about classes that aren't filled. There's a disconnect here. What role do you play in that? As leaders in this community, as parents, neighbors, what role do you play in raising the visibility of these issues in this community and filling these gaps? Like, these are opportunities. This guy's saying, I can train you at a really affordable price, and this guy's saying, and then I can hire you and pay you a pretty darn good wage. That's a no-brainer, right? So what role do you all play in helping move that forward? I need to ask Marc Richardson a role question, because you brought this up. We didn't move this county into the next century. Well, we're like 13 years into this century now, okay? So help me understand from an infrastructure point of view, where is this county in terms of cell service and in terms of high-speed internet access?
Well, we're not near as healthy as we need to be. First of all, it's a matter of public safety about cell service. We need to be able to contact emergency service, whatever help we need. And frankly, the topography of the county makes it a tougher nut to crack. We've got hills and valleys, and most of you are familiar with the case where you go into one of those valleys, you lose contact with whoever you were talking to. So we're trying hard to encourage the private industry, the communication industry, to do a better job here. But at the same time, they look at their infrastructure costs and they would rather put it, excuse me, where there are more people. And so we're trying to stay on top of that at the commissioner level and certainly at the bureaucracy level. And we are having communication. but we are not where we want to be with either broadband or normal cell. I mentioned to you because I thought you were going to ask me, you know, what can we do about this disconnect that
Sure. Let's take that
Marc-
question now.
Well, I think we need to better serve the employer. And in doing so, at the educational level, we're going to better serve our citizens, because even if it's a blue-collar job, every time somebody takes a job in this county, rather than going on the welfare rolls, we all benefit, especially the taxpayers. Throughout the state, and certainly here in this county, we have far too high a dropout rate. And I think most of that's because we don't give those young people what they want to study. And if we can do that, and there are efforts being made locally, you heard Dr. Shotwell talk about some of those, and at the state level as well, to have more vocational training of the type that we need. I have kind of a vision that a young person can graduate with a high school diploma in HVAC or plumbing or carpentry or whatever it is, and go over to Rockingham Community College and get an advanced certification in those same disciplines. And I know there's some sharing of facilities that are laying the groundwork for that. And so collectively, these sort of efforts are what we can do. And even as a private citizen or mom and dad, encouraging these kids to take care of themselves.
Is there anyone in here in the tech industry? So, Peter, you're here with a company called Tech Authority. So I just want, I mean, this idea of the infrastructure and the cell service limitations and the high-speed internet, is there a good reason for this right now? Is it really about market share, that there's not enough business here to bring a Verizon in or bring an AT&T in to support this? Is that a question you can answer?
I'm going to refer to Chris.
Go ahead.
The other owner.
Good morning. Yes, it does have a lot to do with the amount of people that are available to be served. I know one of our missions that we've been trying to do is to make business people aware of, if we want to grow this community, that the way we do that is to make sure that the technology house is in order, because that's where business is moving. Everything is mobile. Everything is no longer locally based. It is global. So we definitely are in need of infrastructure to help businesses not only stay and grow in Rockingham County, but also come to Rockingham County. And we are desperately also working with our education system to, bring up the next level of employee that we need, because there is a definite need for high-skilled technical labor.
So what's interesting about this is you can hear what Rodney Shotwell is saying is how he's preparing these kids for a digital future, for an internet-based future. But if there's not an internet-based future here in Rockingham County, then these kids really are going to go elsewhere to find those opportunities. I don't know how to bridge that gap, though, because this is a free market and there's not enough customers in this county. It's going to be hard for those companies to come in. So I just wonder if there isn't an initiative that needs to happen here to lobby for this. Is this something the legislature needs to be involved in? Phil Berger's from this county. He's aware of these challenges. I just wonder if this is something that the state legislature needs to look at and say, Rockingham needs a little bit of help. Because you really can't grow too much with these kinds of limitations. It's just too difficult to do. The world's going digital. It's been there, actually. You need this just to keep up. Rodney, help us understand, we're sort of getting into the state realm. How is the changes or the decisions being made in Raleigh over the last several years, how is that trickling down to affect your school system and decisions and things that you're doing here in Rockingham County?
Well, the funding issue started probably just a little before the crash in 2007. So, I'll just say this up front because it's not really a Democrat or Republican issue. It's something that's been kind of inherited. Governor Easley called me and the other 114 superintendents to the governor's mansion in 2002 and said, if you guys will just take a $22 million reversion this year, I promise I won't do it to you again. Well, that grew up to $376 million, and now it's been a permanent cut. And so what that's equal to is 46 teachers, and 2 instructional support positions like a nurse or a counselor or something like that. You know, I mean, there's obviously less state funding, and the vast majority of my budget is funded through the state. North Carolina is really different than a lot of other states. In most states, there's the large lion's share of it is by the local, and the local board also has taxing authority in those states too. So you kind of have to look at it. You know, it's really a North Carolina issue, but it's been slowly being pulled back, and somehow or other we've got to change the conversation to just talking about dollars and talk about outcomes. And when we talk about outcomes, you have to work your way back to how much is that going to cost, because no matter how bad, you know, we want people to come to North Carolina and say that this is a corporate environment. If they don't see the K-12 industry as looking that they're producing quality students graduating from high school, they're not coming, period. And, you know, and I want to say I had a small little role in the Ruger decision to come to Rockingham County. A principal of mine and myself took time over the 4th of July holiday to meet with some folks from Ruger to talk about the wonderful things that are happening in Rockingham County. 3 weeks ago, with the City of Eden, we met with a company that had narrowed down to 5 sites in the United States to come here and relocate their loom business. And the one thing that I did was I said, you know, you come to Rockingham County, we have the technology. And we walked right across the street from the Eden city offices right over to Central Elementary School, and I said, what you see here, we've got it everywhere. and they really liked that, and I talked about some other programs that we're offering at the high schools and some things that our board's going to be talking about next Monday at the school board meeting. We have to constantly keep looking at what our kids need. And the fact of the matter is that it is funding, and we really try to be as lean and mean as we possibly can to stretch our dollars to go as far as they possibly can, and that's why Mr. Richardson and I get along so well, and Mr. Metzler, is that, you know, we've not asked for an increase from our county commissioners for 7 years. And I really appreciate their making that commitment to at least keep us at that same dollar amount every year, because in a lot of counties in North Carolina, they haven't done that. But it goes back to what are we getting down the road? And I really think that we're setting a foundation that we are going to prepare kids to have some choices. And as we get more involved with the Manufacturing Association, get more involved with the healthcare industry and some of these other areas, kids are going to find out, wow, there's a lot of things going on here in Rockingham County and the potential for it. I mean, I can't wait till 220's finished, because maybe that final piece of the puzzle for logistics will come together for us, because we've got water, we've got rail, and we've got a lot of natural resources here. And if we have that last little bit of that corridor, we've got that square covered going around Rockingham County. And as an educator, if I'm not aware of those needs, then I can't plan what I need to do. And you know, we are the core group of that economic driver, because the second question they're going to ask after workers are, what is the school system like? And anytime I have a chance to talk to potential folks coming here, I'm going to talk about Rockingham County schools and tell them that they couldn't pick a better place.
I want to stick with this question of funding for education, and it's sort of a theme that we've had today. We have greater support right now from this legislature for charter schools, and they've set up programs for scholarships over the next couple of years for there to be more choice in public schools. And I know that Marc Richardson, you were involved in a charter school here. You were principal for a while. Let's kind of start with you. What's your sense of charter schools and the roles they play in a community like Rockingham?
Well, first of all, charter schools are a public school, and it is one vehicle. I'm not one of these people that says charter schools are the answer, but they're one of the answers.
How so?
Well, number one, it provides an alternative choice for parents, and one size does not fit all in the education thing. I'm sure Dr. Shotwell will tell you that a lot of his effort is to provide variety of service to the student. And I think charter schools do that. Charter schools also do it at a lesser cost to the taxpayer. So from a business sense, I'm a strong advocate of getting the most bang from the buck.
Why do they cost less?
They don't get infrastructure money. They have to take care of, they get roughly 20% less. They don't get the money required to build buildings and no capital money.
Okay.
That may change, but that's the way it is now.
Okay.
I think the way it helps here is it does make our county attractive because there's another education alternative. I think church schools and private schools do the same thing, but again, one size doesn't fit all. And I know it's a challenge to the school system because you have to accommodate that. If you're losing a certain number of students, you're losing some monies with that. And so if you don't reduce your overhead, you're going to be in a deficit.
Yeah. So charter schools, the argument for charter schools is that it's going to keep the public schools on their toes. It introduces competition in the community, and we all believe that competition is a good thing. Rodney, help us understand your sense of the charter schools and how you need to respond to them and how you're able to respond to them.
Well, last year I was one of about 5 or 6 superintendents that actually had some heresy ideas, kind of towards the norm. And one of the things that we were asking for was some charter-like flexibility where school districts might be able to charter their own charters, school within a school, so that there was some flexibility with that. Because part of it is that a charter school, only 50% of the staff has to be certified. Now, we'll say this, the Bethany charter is 100% certified staff. They've been here since 2000. That grew out of the fact that the people in that community wanted a school to remain in that community for their kids in middle school, which is, I think, a little bit different than some in the other parts of the state, the reasons why they do it now.
Okay.
And when you look at that, like, I lost some kids to the new Summit charter school, Summerfield Charter School this year. They built the place in 4 months. Their building requirements are different than mine. My buildings have a certain requirement. That's stick building. I mean, it's just like your house inside. It's got wooden studs. Our school buildings don't, unless they're built in the 30s, which we still have a few of those. But all the new ones that we've built since basically the 1970s don't have wooden studs. And those are the requirements that we have. And they just leave. And when they leave, the state dollars go, and I get a letter from the charter school saying I need their local money on a monthly basis. Now, let's say that I have an innovative school that I really want kids to come to, and let's say that the kid lives right across the line in Guilford County. In order for them to come to my school, they have to be released from Dr. Green over in Guilford County. I have to accept them, and then that student has to pay the per pupil amount that we have from the county commissioners, which is about $1,100 per student. So the difference is, if that parent wants to make a choice to come to Rockingham County for something that we're offering, they have to pay. If they go to a charter school, the money just follows them. Now, this is where the heresy started happening with my colleagues and I. We actually had a bill that we started working with Representative Stam, because he actually was one that said, okay, anybody got any bright ideas out there, bring it to us. So there were some of us that did that. And we actually had some people who wanted to thwart ideas in Raleigh, not the legislators, but some other folks that were in education. They said, y'all can't do that. Well, and I brought it to the forefront, and it became a discussion. It never made it out of committee.
All right, what was the idea?
Well, the idea was that we could charter a charter school of our own, or we could have some charter-like flexibility in terms of, like, if I'm doing a vocational academy, if I want to hire a brick mason, if I have a master brick mason out there in the community, why can't I hire him from November to February when it's the down season for them to train my kids? But if I do, under my current rules, I've got to send them back to school for probably 3 years to get certified.
Well, they would do that.
Well, sure, yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing if I did a performing arts academy. Why can't I get a dancer who danced on Broadway for 15 years and has a dance studio to come contract with me for an hour every day for a semester to teach dance? No, I've got to get somebody who's just left UNCG with a 4-year degree in dance who's certified that I have to pay. It's some flexibilities like that. I mean, it's pros and cons to both of those kinds of things. But I really think that if you drop the borders and we have open competition, I'm going to win. I mean, I stand firm on that because the people will follow the programs that they want. And we can offer a lot. But if they can't come to me and the dollars follow them, because we talk about enrollment. We have lost some kids here. We've lost about 1,000 kids since 1997.
To charter schools?
No, just in general, in an enrollment.
Okay.
Because of the changing in the economy here, the loss of over 7,000 jobs during the last 15 years. And now we're coming out on the other end, and as we look at this, I mean, I'm not afraid of the competition, but I just want to be able to have that opportunity to have people, if there's people who live on the Castle line, the northern part of Guilford or Stokes, and they want to come to my schools, let them. And if some of my kids, if they have a program over there, then I have to fight to keep them here, then I'll do that. But then we're all on the same playing field. The other thing, too, is that I have to provide transportation. I have to provide the free and reduced lunch program so that children who can't afford lunch,
And charter schools do not?
they do not.
So how level is this playing field?
Well, it all depends. They would tell you that they don't have facilities, just like Mr. Richardson said here. But they can also, you know, they've figured out other ways to do that. You've had some that have gone into some strip malls that have got a site and they've, you know, put up the false walls in there and they've got a facility there. You've got some that have built schools. You've got some that have taken like old manufacturing sites and done those. And, you know, it really kind of just depends on what that charter school looks like. All of them do it a little bit different. Now, like
Yeah.
the one here, they offer transportation in the different areas to bring them to Bethany there. So, and like I said, they're 100% certified with their staff. But not all of them are like that. I have to have 100% certification. If I want to have a specialized program, if I have some charter-like flexibility or charter that one program, then I could change the salaries of those people that are teaching my kids in there. It depends on what the skill is. If I want somebody to come in there and teach electronics, that's going to be a little bit different pay scale than somebody coming in and teaching maybe a fine arts program. I mean, that's
Yeah. This is a complicated issue. Comes down to state funding, support you get, and the competition as it's playing out, and priorities that are being set at various government levels as well. I want to start turning this conversation out. We're going to go for about another 10 minutes or so, maybe another 15 minutes, and then we're going to start wrapping this program up. We've covered a lot of interesting ground here. There's been some progress made in this community, and we've still got some challenges. These folks are here on the forefront trying to address those challenges along with some of you in the room as well. What kind of questions do we have from you folks? Right back here.
Can charter schools turn down or deny a student if they choose to?
church schools.
Charter schools as opposed to public schools?
Technically, no, but they hold lotteries. And with some situations, some of our special needs children don't necessarily gain access to the charter schools like they do at the public schools. You have to understand, I take care of kids that can't talk. I have teacher assistants that are changing diapers on these kids, and I keep them until they're 21. And we try the very best to make progress on an individual basis there. But not all of them have to take those special needs students. It really depends on how they hold a lottery. Again, you know, the school system, the one we have here in the county, they do take special needs kids, and they do have IEPs, and you know, and we do work with them very well, by the way.
Mark, you want to address that question?
Well, the basic answer is, yeah, if you're eligible to go to school in North Carolina, you're eligible to go to any charter school. Some schools have a particular focus, like a school for the deaf. There's a charter school for the blind and so forth. But most of them are general education facilities. And so if you want to go to one of them, if they don't have a waiting list, you're in. If they do have a waiting list, then you end up in this lottery situation that Rodney was talking about.
Does that answer your question, sir? Okay. Yeah, right here.
This is a question for Mr. Marc in the middle. This is a question for Mr. Marc in the middle. I am from one of the educational institutions, UNCG. You talked about job openings that are still open in the midst of what is an extraordinarily high unemployment rate, both in the county, in the state, in our country, for a very long time. And as Justin said, it is an issue. What kind of job openings do you have at DyStar that are still open? What kind of skills that they require that you haven't been able to find and fill? That's important for us to know.
Where we struggle at DyStar are on the higher level positions. We've got things covered from a blue collar standpoint, quite frankly, through staffing agencies and so forth. It's more the higher level ones with 4-year chemistry degrees, experience in R&D, or the roles, engineering degrees that we have issues in trying to fill. I can speak for only DyStar, but I know of other companies are the same way. You kind of stuck where a lot of companies don't want to bring someone straight out of school if they have no experience, but how do you get experience if you don't have any foot in the door type thing? So that's one thing we struggle with, is trying to find the right person that has some experience, but not too much experience, but also has the education background needed.
Do you partner with any of the local 4-year institutions, with the careers office or internships office?
We have in the past. In fact, I'm a product of that, quite honestly. I went to NC State University and was a co-op student, where I went to where I'm working now, actually as a co-op student, working a semester and going to school semester. So the program works, I can guarantee. So those are definitely programs that can work, and that's where you can get some of that experience needed in that. The current position that we have available is something that we've not had a partnership like that for.
I have a comment on the question. I think we're very strong in education in the county, like Dr. Shotwell mentioned. There's a lot of things going on in the community college and with the manufacturing base. The one piece in this whole puzzle that we don't seem to have action on right now is the technology. Some way or another, if we don't fix that problem, these other successes and things that are in the mill are not going to pay dividends. So
Not here. They'll accrue somewhere else.
some way we need to fix that problem in Rockingham County.
Absolutely.
And my question is, how do we go about doing that?
Yeah, so who's got that answer? Anybody want to take a crack at that?
Well, I know a starting point. If you're talking about broadband and cell service and that sort of thing, and this is happening, I'd like to see more of it happen, but at all levels. Private and the school as well may have a role in this, but certainly your county government needs to stay in contact with AT&T and all these providers. I'm not picking on AT&T, but all the providers, because if you solve just one of the company problems, there's still lots of customers that are not going to be served otherwise. And I think it's a collective sort of thing. Write your legislators, write your provider itself. I think those are perhaps the first thing that you can do, and it's pretty cost effective.
Rodney, you actually had some time with Senator Berger yesterday. Is this an issue that comes up when you talk with him, or are you just talking education?
No, we talk about, the outcomes from K-12 and how they affect the economy. And I think he's keenly aware of the need for broadband. And I know that MCNC out of Raleigh, has really tried to lay some lines through some rural areas. But then the problem is getting an independent service provider to then tap into that broadband that's coming through. If you think about like an interstate highway, you've got I-40 going through there, then it's up to you to decide where you need to have the service roads to turn off to go to someplace else. And that's really what we're looking for here. I serve on the Business Technology Advisory Board, and I know that's been on the forefront during my time here, and we spent a lengthy amount of time talking about it at our last meeting last week, how important that's going to be for us to grow forward. And broadband can be defined different ways, because like with Verizon, they have those little boxes that you see, and they say it's broadband. It's still based on the cell tower.
Okay.
So if we could get that cell tower that they keep saying is coming to Wentworth, once that thing gets up there, and then AT&T gets theirs up there, and we get more of that cell service, then you could get those broadband boxes at home through Verizon or anybody else that provides it. It's the same thing with Time Warner. Whenever we were trying to get our schools to get the fiber run out to them, that's run out to some rural areas like Lincoln, Bethany, Wentworth, some of those other areas that people could pull off of, but they have to be willing to do that.
Okay. Another question. We got some more right here.
We recently acquired a shopping center up in Eden and made a decision to invest in the area, so we're pretty bullish on North Carolina and on the area.
Tell us your name, sir.
I'm Marty Cotis with Cotis Properties. We have a shopping center investment and also restaurant operations group out of Greensboro. But I like Eden. I spend time up in Eden and Reidsville around here. There's lots of things to do. I live in Summerfield, but we'll drive up here to kind of get away from the hustle of Greensboro sometimes. So my question is, what retailers do you feel like you need in the Eden area, specifically in that center, that you'd like to see us recruit to the area? We work to recruit groups like that in. And also, do you think there's a niche for a microbrewery in the area as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that might be a question for the audience, Marty.
We've got a new brewery we're doing in Greensboro, but are looking at doing another operation specifically in that center. So just trying to gauge retailers you'd like to see in the area and whether or not there's a need for a microbrewery.
Are there thoughts from you guys off the top of your head, retailers, or this is your
I'm
chance,
definitely
man? Who
all
do you
for the
want?
microbrewery. I mean,
Well, I'm for multiple microbreweries, and I believe that's the intent of RCC, is to have that capacity to have multiples. I think a general cross-section is exactly what we want. And somebody mentioned earlier about their unmarried employees living outside the county. We need more entertainment as well as retail establishments. And I think it goes across the gamut. And thank you for being part of the solution right here. There's another thing that comes up, and at least this Board of Commissioners is very sensitive to the fact that while we're encouraging industry and company involvement and industrial involvement at every opportunity to employ our citizens, we've got a pretty impressive environmental capacity here in this county that we've got to protect that, and we're in a good position to protect it, to keep us from going down the wrong path, because we need our hills and trees and rivers and water. You know, there are envious eyes looking at our water right now, and we're not going to give it away. That's a little parochial, but I think that's an essential part as we invite other companies and retail establishments.
Questions on that? We're going to take about 2 or 3 more quick questions. Right here, sir.
I'm Steve Brown from Investors Title, and I'm not from this area, but I attend these forums for Triangle Business Journal has all over this area because it's part of my business profile. But I hear this common theme at every one of these I go to, that we've got community colleges that have programs that aren't filled. We've got industry that says we need more people in this thing. And it seems to me there's a breakdown occurring between what we talk about in this room and those parents of those kids that are in middle school and high school. I know as I've gotten older, I have these moments where I want to go back and punch my high school guidance counselor in the nose because they didn't tell me you could do this. And there's got to be some thought between the school systems, the colleges, the industry, the community leaders. How do we educate those parents, the people who have that high school education, said that was enough for me, that that's not enough, but it doesn't necessarily mean you got to spend your kid to a 4-year college and incur those kind of student loan debt to get them a good job and a good future that will keep them here. So what do you do to do that?
That's up to you guys. You know, I mean, they're doing it. They're trying to do it as much as they can as they have interaction. So that's up to you.
I can tell you
Rodney.
I can tell you some things that are going on now in our youth services and our social services. We have a very, very active partnership for children in this county. It's a strong advocate of what we call the first 2,000 days. These new parents need to know how important it is to read to their kids. That's how basic it is, and some don't. I'm not saying it's not solving the whole problem, but we are making inroads, and you find us supporting things like Dolly Parton Library and these other things that bring an emphasis on early education and strong parenting. And strong parenting, you know, until you get them out the door and they're no longer on you got it. There's a place for strong parenting. And I see unencouraged youngsters a lot. And sometimes I'm quite impressed at how diligent they are without the encouragement at home. I think your point's well taken, sir.
Rodney, you want to add something to that?
Just a real quick spin, I'll bring you up to speed. In 2010, a group of individuals in this county brought together and created the Rockingham County Education Foundation to better the education for the citizens of Rockingham County, more specifically support the public schools of Rockingham County. And how they've been able to do that is they've been able to get these college advisors who are recent graduates from Chapel Hill. I know you two guys are not excited about that. But their sole job is to get kids excited about the possibility of going to school after college. And it's made an effect. In 2007, our seniors that year were offered a little over $5 million in scholarship opportunities. The class of 2012, we had $18 million that was offered to our high school seniors to go to school. Last year, it was about $15 million. We had a smaller class. The problem that they're running into is that when they go and they talk to the parents about their children going off to school, even the RCC, they're afraid that if their kid gets too much education, that they're going to forget them and not come back home. And that's a real reality. And we really do push. I mean, we take these kids on visits, not only to the university system, but we bring them over here to RCC a lot. And I can't tell you, the relationship that Mike and I have and our staff. We know that $2,400 a year here is a really, really good deal. And kids can either set themselves up for a good job in the workforce or go ahead and get themselves set up to go to their junior and senior year at one of the colleges or universities. But it really is, it goes back to that parent piece. We've got to teach them that it's okay for their kids to get that education, because that's how we break the cycle.
Absolutely.
And that's what that group's for, is for first generation college.
Yeah. So let's take one more question and we're going to wrap up. Go ahead.
Peter McKinnon with Tech Authority. I'm an end user of the school systems. I'm an employer. I have two jobs that pay roughly $60,000 a year. I can't fill. I've tried RCC. I've hired somebody from GTCC. I've tried some of the local private schools for just technology. And what they're turning out is not what the end user needs. What we're getting is a help desk level entry person. Is there any way maybe that the different end users of technology can meet with the school system and other, like the manufacturers have a board? Because technology is changing rapidly. And if we could get together, business leaders, owners, and say, this is what we need for our business, to look at something like that, because 2 years ago, the needs for technology have changed dramatically already. And as we go more digital and more mobile, it's going to change in our county quicker.
You'll turn around and introduce yourself to that redheaded lady right behind you.
Yeah.
We know each other well. And I'm thinking that, like, our advisory boards are where we need you on our computer programming advisory boards, and we will do that.
Rodney, you want to take that?
And I just want to say, last year we just started the beginning of the A+ certification with Microsoft at our high schools, too, to help out with that as well. Because we're also running into that, too, because we have about 15,000 devices operating today in our schools. And finding somebody to come in for some of those technical jobs, it takes us time to find them as well. What would be ideal is to find a kid that's really techie as a junior, just like I told you all, the device has to be good for the goose. If we could hire them and get them tied into our system and we pay for their training, eventually we'd have a really good tech support person who can do those kinds of things that you're asking.
All right, we need to start wrapping up. So we aren't done here, and I feel this way every time we finish a conversation here in Rockingham County, that we make some progress, but there's more to talk about because there's more to do here. We'll come back next year, and when we come back next year, what I hope we can talk about is how the expansion of broadband in this community is starting to address some of these issues and how you're starting to leverage that. Let's make that a goal. Maybe some more internships for young people. Let's make that a goal too, and maybe a little bit more support for the education system here. Things are moving generally in the right direction. They're moving more slowly here in Rockingham County, though, than they are elsewhere. Some of that you folks can do something about, and some of it is just you're going to need some allies. So who are those allies that you need? Because none of these issues and challenges are insurmountable. They're just not. Just money, right? So you just need to work about that. We got one more sponsor we're going to hear from, and Doug Copeland is going to come out and close out the program. Mac Banks, he's the Dean of the Bryan School of Business and Economics. I want to thank our panel, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Justin. Interesting, when I got here, I saw that I'm listed for closing remarks. Usually I just get to give a little ad about the Bryan School. But closing remarks, I think, Doug, gives me a little more leeway, a little more latitude. Okay, so I'm going to take that. One of the things that really pleases me about this particular program is that what we're talking about is the importance of education in not only economic development, but in community development as well. My field is entrepreneurship, and I've done a lot of work around rural entrepreneurship. And what I want to find out through the studies that I do is why companies locate where they do, why people start companies where they do, and so on. And I've studied not only startups, but mid-sized businesses, large businesses as well. And when I ask them those questions, and I give them a lot of different choices in there, the thing that comes up number one is education. The thing that comes up number two, if you don't factor education out of that, is education. And if you still don't factor education out, number three is education. So education is important. It's critically important. Doesn't matter if it's pre-K through 12. Doesn't matter if it's the community college. Doesn't matter if it's the four-year university. Education is vitally important to the economic development of communities as well as the community development of counties and cities and states. So this is a really important topic. I'm glad we're talking about that. I think it also fits in nicely with what we're trying to do at UNCG and the Bryan School, because when the chancellor hired me, she said, what we want you to do is to focus on economic development, build stronger and deeper and broader relationships with not only the business community, but the not-for-profit community and the governmental communities around the region. And that's part of what we're doing, and that's one of the reasons why we're here in Rockingham County today with the Triad Business Journal, is to focus on developing those relationships. I'm joined by a number of my colleagues here, and they'll be happy to talk with you a little bit. But if I also go back and tell you a little bit more about how we're doing that in the Bryan School, you know, if you look at the mission statement of just about any business school, it's going to say, we develop leaders. I don't know many companies that come to a business school or any type of school and say, we want to hire you to be our CEO. Come work for us, okay? No, instead, that's something that you have to work towards. So we can provide people with the education about leadership. We can give them some opportunities to practice leadership skills and to develop leadership skills. But ultimately, the leadership part is going to be down the road a bit. Okay? What we can do, however, is provide them with some important skills to go along with that. And you heard Dr. Shotwell talk about the importance of problem solving, and that teachers are helping their students understand how to solve problems. Well, guess what? In the Bryan School, our focus is on educating our students to be exceptional problem solvers. Is there anyone here who doesn't want to hire an exceptional problem solver? Yeah, I never get a hand going up when I ask that question. And so that's what we do. And there are a lot of different ways that we do that. We have ways that we can partner with you that will help us and help our students, but they will also help you. Seth, do we have copies of this brochure, the Three Portals brochure? No? Okay. If you want a copy of this Three Portals brochure, leave your business card with Seth Young back here at the table, and we'll be sure and get this to you. But in this, it talks about the different ways that we can do this, okay? We heard earlier about the importance of internships and things of that sort. Well, we have an office in the Bryan School that does career placement and internships, and we would be happy to partner with you. If you are looking for employees, then we will help you. It doesn't matter if it's someone with a background in chemistry. We will connect you with the right person to find that person in chemistry to help you. In addition to helping you with your employment and internship needs, we also offer, obviously, education. There may be people that have degrees from RCC, and you want them to improve beyond that. Well, we have an online degree completion program in the Bryant School. And students never have to leave your place of employment in order to complete that bachelor's degree in business administration. We also have the opportunity, of course, to have people come to our campus. We have the opportunity for them to get the MBA. And by the way, the MBA, how many of you knew that the Bryant School Evening MBA program was ranked 12th in the country in terms of academic quality? Thank you.
I read my alumni newsletter.
All right. All right. Yeah. Well, we don't count the Business Journal staff here because they've heard this a bunch. Okay. But thank you for reading your alumni newsletter. Yeah, and that's really important. We have the strongest MBA in terms of academic quality in the state, according to those part-time rankings. So we know that we can offer a strong product there. In addition to that, one of the ways that we help our students develop that problem-solving skill, that problem-solving ability, is with required projects that the students have to do. Now, we've done it in a number of different disciplines. We've done it in our full-time MBA program over the years as well, and we're getting tremendous outcomes from that. But one of the things that we did in a comprehensive curriculum revision was to develop a requirement that all students, undergraduate and graduate students, would have to complete a hands-on consulting project before they graduate. So now we're not only teaching the theory in the classroom and teaching them application through case studies and exercises and activities in the classroom, we're also teaching them through projects that they have to do out in real companies solving real problems. I'll give you one real quick example of this. We were working with a company. It's actually a winery in the Triad. And the person who owns the winery runs a hedge fund as his day job up in New York City. And when we got to the end of the presentation of the project, he said, you know, in my day job, I hire MBAs from Harvard, from Yale, from Wharton, from Columbia. The work that your team did is as good as, if not better, than anything I have ever received from any of them. Okay. This is a tremendous program. It's a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity for the students to get real-world experience, that practice part. It's a real opportunity for you to get help with the problems that you have, and we would love to partner with you on education, on placement, and on problem solving. So thank you very much. Again, leave your card with Seth back in the back if you want to get a copy of this 3 Portals brochure. Thanks, Doug.
Well, wow. Thanks again to our panelists. Y'all did a great job. You put yourself on the line. You addressed difficult issues. Justin closed by saying we're not done yet, and we're not done yet. We want to continue this conversation. So how do we do that? You remember I told you to bring out 2 business cards. I want you at the end of the program to go and visit with one of our reporters. I want you to give them a little, in one sentence, glimpse of your business and what you do. I want you to build that relationship. And let me introduce them, if I might. Marc Sutter, our editor, he's the tall guy, the blue jacket back there. Beside him is Owen Covington. Over here is Katie Arcieri, and handling the microphone is our managing editor, Lloyd Whittington. Introduce yourself to one of those 3 people. Just like Mac said about him getting the right students to the right employers, they will get you to the right reporter. We want to tell your story. And I think Michael will tell you that we love telling the stories. I mean, we have a great relationship with Rockingham Community College. We love talking about what they're doing, and we want to tell your story. How will we do that? We really have 4 or 5 ways we do that. Every morning, we have a morning edition that comes to people. Every afternoon, we have an afternoon digital edition. If you're not getting those, we're going to give you an opportunity to see those after today's program. I think we have most of your email addresses. If you think we don't, drop your business card on the table as you leave, and we'll get that to you. Every week, we have our weekly edition, and that's available both as a print product. You'll get today's paper when you leave. I think it's on the table outside. It's available digitally. Mine showed up this morning. I got my notification from the Apple App Store at 4:30 this morning that it was posted, and I appreciate it waking me up 15 minutes earlier than I needed to. But that's my fault for not turning off the notification. So that's how we'll do that. Gary Marshall, right in the back in the white hat, is going to give you a chance to subscribe at $15 off. So if you're not seeing the paper in your own name, you need to do that. Now, I talked about that other business card. What are you going to do with it? We have heard over and over about the regional nature of the people here today, the regional nature of this county, people wanting to do business across county lines. Don't leave yet. Our caterer, Debbie's Catering, still has coffee and juice and food left. Stay a few more minutes. Get to know one other person and give them your business card so we can grow business relationships, if you will. Thanks again to our sponsors. Join me in thanking our presenting sponsors, the Bryan School, who you just heard from, and Workforce Development. You heard about their regional nature. Let's give them a big round of applause. Visit their booths back here. Our co-sponsors, the Reidsville Area Foundation, Rockingham Community College, and the Rockingham County Economic Development Group. Thank you as well. Dr. Helmick, thank you for your staff. They've been great to work with setting this up. Lloyd and I got here about 6 o'clock this morning, and Kim Pryor was already here, and she looked like she'd already been working a while when we got here. But thank you also to Lloyd Whittington and Rockingham County's own Melody Watt, who helped us set up this morning. With that, get to know each other. Thank you so much for today.